The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. In this episode, we talk about Emery Barnes' journey into marketing and advertising. Emery is currently a brand supervisor in DoorDash's creative studio, working on the consumer and partnerships businesses. We talk about the intentional moves he made early in his career to land jobs at some of the world's largest agencies and on some of the largest brands. Emery also gives tangible tools on how someone without a decorated resume can land their first internship and how to position that experience to land their dream job. He also goes in depth about how to make and sustain relationships as you're interviewing for different positions, how to ask for what you want intentionally and concisely, and how putting your ego aside can help you get farther in your career. Lastly, Emery details the importance of locking in and focusing on your own journey instead of comparing yourself to others as you're rising up. This is so important. I can't wait for you to listen. And you can connect with Emery. We have his LinkedIn in the bio. And also, I listed out his recommended resources, exclusively available on our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod. That's all one word, at Breaking and Entering Pod. You're going to love this one. Now on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right, Emery Barnes, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. It's Emery Barnes. Is that correct?
That's correct. And appreciate you having me, Gino. I'm a big fan. I've been following you for a while on this. So kudos on everything you've been doing with this. It's really cool to see how you've evolved this and get some pretty big names on here. So honored to be here, and I'm excited.
Hey, I love to hear that. And I'm honored to have you on. You had such a great career already, and you're fairly fresh in your career. I think this is going to be really helpful for all of our student listeners because you've worked at some amazing agencies, and now you are a brand supervisor for the creative studio at DoorDash. So we're talking client side, we're talking DoorDash. I see a Leo Burnett in here. I see some other I see a Mullen in here. I got a Momentum. I mean, we got some big names and some big roles.
Yep.
So we got a lot to talk about here, and I'm excited to learn. Where do you want to start? Let's start with how's your day-to-day. Tell me about what's life like over. You're in New York City. Give us a rundown.
New York. I'm in New York right now. I live in Chelsea, but I'll start it back with college for the most part. I mean, even before that, I always knew I wanted to get into marketing. My dad worked at Gillette. He did trade sales there. So I think I was pretty fortunate early on just to be able to shadow him. He took me into the office a few times, really see what was going on there. And then,
where is that office at? Where'd you grow up?
It was in Schaumburg, Illinois.
Yeah.
So he traveled a bit. I'm born and raised in Naperville, Illinois, so Chicago suburbs. So yeah, right before they got bought out by P&G, now they're in Cincinnati, but they're in Schaumburg, so right outside of Chicago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And my mom is an architect, so it was really cool growing up with both of them because I got to see like firsthand business experience, corporate America, but also the creative side of things with my mom.
Yep.
So I think I took that going into college. I went to Butler University, studied marketing, didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. Marketing is so...
Why'd you go to Butler?
It's a great question. So a few reasons. I wanted to be close to home, not necessarily in Illinois, where if something came up or I wanted to see family, I can be a few hours away driving, but not in my doorstep.
What's the distance on that?
It's about 3 hours.
Perfect.
And I had some family in Indiana too, so it really made it feel like home. I wanted a small school. My high school had about 4,000 plus people.
Which one? Nequa?
Nequa, yeah.
Yeah.
Graduating class had 1,084, if I'm not mistaken. It was so big where they told you couldn't clap because there's so many people, you would have been there for hours. So yeah. So Butler really drew me, I think, for a few reasons. One, the proximity, as I mentioned. Two, it was small. I wanted a school where I can still be a human, a person, not just a statistic. Yeah. I was really drawn by their business program too. I think they have this thing where you have to do 2 internships by the time you graduate. So getting that firsthand experience, Indianapolis itself is like, it's a pretty sizable city, and not
Yeah.
necessarily anything like Chicago, LA, New York, but enough where you can get some work experience, and still have that culture. And I actually ran track there for a year too. So, as I was doing my research my senior year, I just kind of looked up some colleges that had good business programs, were close by, like were pretty well academically ranked, and Butler came to be. So,
Nice.
that brought me there. Studied marketing, didn't really know what I wanted to do with it because there's so many different avenues you can go. There's like traditional marketing and more so like brand marketing. You can do advertising, you could do sales, PR, etc. So I went in bright-eyed, not really knowing what I wanted to do. But what was really helpful throughout my time there is I did a lot of internships. So came to Butler with a pretty blank resume, and then left, I think, doing 5 internships. The first one I did was with
Whoa. How do you get 5 internships in 4
yeah,
years?
it's a great question. So I didn't have any my first year, my freshman year, but the interesting thing about Butler is the culture was very like academically and success driven, which I think
Nice.
played a huge role into where I'm at now. I think like getting into internship was really cool. It's kind of funny. Like I went to a public high school, but like going to Butler as a private university, like having an internship was something that was like, oh, like you have status, you have like you're cool. So I remember leaving my freshman year. I was like, I need an internship. Like, but how do I get one? So I went on Google, typed in marketing internships in Indianapolis, and came across one at Habitat for Humanity. And I remember like seeing the page for it, ended up applying. And what I did in my interview, I was able to go and basically take the job description and then translate that into output of everything that I would have done. So like if they had said, okay, we want someone to manage marketing material or social media, like I put in at the end of my internship, this is what I'm going to accomplish. So it wasn't necessarily selling myself on the experience I didn't have. It was more about what I could bring and what I was going to do if you hired me.
Whoa. What was the form of that? You just conversation?
Conversation.
Email?
I mean, like getting an internship interview was one thing, but it was in the actual conversation. I remember like I drove to the office, like had an,
That's a foreign concept already.
yeah, had it. Yeah, I know. Tell me
Yeah.
about it. But I had an entire presentation. I was like, took the job description. Basically, was like, these are all the things you're asking for. Like, here are tangible ways that
Yeah.
we can help bring it to life.
To
And I think that really made me stick out. So, had that internship. That was great. I'll fast forward. I studied abroad in Barcelona and got an internship there. I think that opened a lot of doors for me. Just having the cross-cultural experience. The entire internship was predominantly in Spanish. My boss spoke English, but really encouraged me to speak Spanish during it as well. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah, being able to just be in that environment and see the world beyond just America, I think it really opened my eyes to what I wanted to do, but also what's important in the world. So then during that experience, I ended up interviewing, or actually, no, I applied for Momentum Worldwide, as you mentioned, and there were 3 internships in Chicago. I didn't really know anything about Momentum outside of they did activations, experiences. It seemed like a music marketing internship, which I was really interested in at the time. And
Sounds
I
great.
ended up applying to all 3 of their internships. So one was a creative internship, one was a strategy internship, and one was a business leadership internship. So like account management.
Yeah.
And I remember justifying, I was like, oh, I'm creative, I'm strategic, I'm a business leader. And then got an interview, kind of forgot about it actually.
And which one?
The
Which
business leadership one.
Gotcha.
And then, yeah, a few months went by. I honestly forgot that I applied for it. Interviewed again. I was in Barcelona at the time. I think they really found the internship I was currently in really exciting and interesting. So
What was the Barcelona internship?
it was this company called CyberClick. It was just a digital marketing internship. But again, I think it was more about the experience of being in another country.
Do you think, I mean, it sounds like you benefit. I didn't study abroad, but it sounds like you benefited a lot from having that internship abroad. Looking back, was that the right move, or did you wish you had more of that free time to explore and
No,
travel?
man. I mean, it was the right move, and I'm fortunate again to be in a position like financially, I was able to do it. I think credit wise, I was able to do it and still graduate. But also, again, it's more about what you learn abroad. And like, I was very intentional when I went. I wasn't necessarily like going there to party and just like be with all my college friends. Like, I went alone, and I wanted to just immerse myself, meet other people. I met a lot of lifelong friends on that trip too. So
Very intentional here.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'll keep going to the journey, but so I
Yeah.
did my internship at Momentum. Like, long story short, got it. First big internship in Chicago,
What
and
year was this? Like, was
yeah,
this like your
this was
junior year summer?
junior year summer. So at this time, this was 2 internships already. So junior going to senior year, I was living at home, commuting into the city, working at
That's
Momentum.
fun. That's good life.
It was such a good time. I just turned 21.
Mhm.
Just got back from
Happy
abroad.
hours, hanging
Yeah,
out,
happy
meeting
hours. Yeah,
coworkers.
exactly. So fun. And yeah, just really was a sponge there. I think that was the internship. I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do. And just learned a lot again about management, advertising. So I came back my senior year, and then I was again studying marketing at the time. I didn't really have any understanding of advertising outside of that internship.
Sure.
And then went to my professor, and I was like, look, this is where I worked. Like, this is what I want to do after I graduate. And like, where's the best place to do it in Chicago? And she gave me 2 places. One was Leo, one was Ogilvy.
Mhm.
She's like, I know 2 former Butler students that were there.
Of course.
Like, here are their names. By all means, like, go do your thing. So I reached out to the person from Ogilvy. That was kind of a dead end. That didn't go anywhere. I reached out to a woman. Her name was Natalia Welch.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out. I'm gonna shout out a ton of people with this.
Do it.
But yeah, she graduated 2 years above me, so she had
Mhm.
interned
Sweet spot.
working there at the same time. And I feel like, again, a tip for the people listening, that's a good, like, time to reach out to people. I'd say when you're about a year or 2 years out of college, you're more eager to give back. I'd say someone at my level, I'm very generous with my time. I mentor a lot of people, but I can't do it all. I think when you're a few years out of college, like, you're still wanting to give back, you're still new, you maybe just did the internship. So I feel like when you're reaching out to people at companies, like, definitely go for the people that are like that just got there.
When they just got there, or you're saying they're 2 years in their role?
No, I think it's anywhere between like 1 to 2, even if they like just
Yeah.
interned there. I think they're more hungry to give back and be more present, but they also have some knowledge on like how I got there, like
Yeah.
your
They
different
just
recruiter.
lived it. Yeah, and that's
Just
why we
like,
try to actually change the strategy of the show. We've had a lot of CEOs, CMOs,
yeah,
CCOs, and now we're trying to get back to the 2 to 3 year.
yeah.
We noticed that's, like, the sweet spot for, like, the most lessons. It
Which is
makes sense.
good. I mean, I think again, like, I didn't have any connections really coming out of college. So a lot of the stuff I did was just reaching out to people. Like, again, like, so I did the Leo reach out.
Yeah, you did the Ogilvy and you did the Leo,
Yeah. And then,
and you reached out to one person at each agency that were both alums of
yeah.
Butler.
And
Makes
then
sense.
Leo, they were very receptive. The woman, Natalia, was like, would love to have you next time you're in Chicago. Like, would love to host you, meet some of the other former interns that converted into full time. So I think I met around
Nice.
4 or 5 people in like a shadow day, basically just had coffee with them. Not necessarily like got to see what they do, but more just like sitting, chopping it up, hearing about their story. And then that was probably like September. Then this was about January when the internship application opened up. I had
Yep.
reached out to all of them, not necessarily like, "Oh, put me on, like, give me an internship." It's more just like, "Hey, thanks again for your time, last year. Like, really feel good about this application. Like, hopefully our paths cross soon." Again, keep it
Isn't
short.
that funny though? Like,
Yeah. I mean,
it
it's like they
you
knew
you
what I was
of
doing.
course, everybody
Yeah.
you gotta play the game though, right?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta say, "Hey, just wanna check in, let you know,
Yeah.
like, I really appreciate talking to you." We all know, like, and
100%.
every and now you're on the other side, you know it
Yeah.
too, but
There's
you appreciate the effort, like, 'cause,
yeah.
you
There's a
have
way
to.
to be blunt about it and be direct for what you want. Cause that's another thing I'll tell people too is like, don't be shy to ask for what you want.
Yeah.
Especially when I say, like, you go to more senior people, like, don't beat around the bush, but I think in that situation, it was more just like, I know they probably don't have a lot of power, I'm not gonna they don't really know me, but, I'm just gonna shoot them a thank you and see where that goes, so, a few months went by, hadn't heard anything, but again, was still feeling pretty good about everything, and then another woman who I, met through a friend at college, he was asking me, he's like, "Hey, like, how's the Leo process going?" He knew that I really wanted to work there. I was like, "Oh, I haven't really heard anything, but, like, I'm still pretty optimistic." And he's like, "Oh, someone that I went to high school with, you should talk to her. Her name is Pilar McQuarter. I actually just got breakfast with her last week. She lives in Chicago, but she was in New York, so like kind of full circle moment. But
Mhm.
um, she had same thing. She was like, we did a little chat on the phone. She's like, come through the office. would love to meet you. And then she actually took me directly to the recruiter at the time. Her name was Michelle Bolanowski.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting in her office. She's like, Emery, like, heard so much about you. I have your resume right here. Like all those people that had, like you spoke to, like you're at the top of this, um, like top of the resumes. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, and then sold her on my story, gave her my elevator pitch. And then she was like, I've never done this before, but I'm going to let you pick like which brand you want. I'm going to give you an internship on the spot, but I'm also going to let you pick which account you want to be on.
Holy cow.
So I'm
That's
like,
incredible.
and this was April of senior year. Like I didn't have any job, I didn't have any internship leads. I was like,
of senior year.
So again, like the goal was always I was going to live at home. So like I didn't have the pressure to be like, I got to lock something in right away. But I was
Or
like,
full time.
again, like all your friends are getting jobs. You're like, you get
It's
different. Yeah.
It's tough when you're comparing yourself to your accounting, CPA friends,
Oh,
and your
100%.
investment bank. I get that.
Yeah.
And listen, I was pretty set on getting a full-time entry-level job when I was graduating.
Yeah.
But I wish I can tell myself to like relax and
Yeah.
an internship is perfectly fine. You have all the time.
Yeah. And one of the things you brought up earlier is like one of the things that you would do differently. Like I don't want to change much of my story, but I think the one thing I tell myself is like really just focus on what you want to do because the amount of jobs, like non-advertising and non-marketing jobs I applied for that was the field. I mean, just waste of time. Like, oh, marketing, like this internship or this job that like, I have no idea what the company is. But like, I might just invest in my time in the few companies I was really focused on that. But
So for you, it was agencies.
For me, it was agencies. Like, I mean, like, I think I was pretty open to anything, but like, again, the internship at Momentum really opened my eyes and been like, that's what I want to do. So anyway, she gave me the internship. She's like, pick your account. Like at the time they had Nintendo, Samsung, Altria, trying to think of some other ones too. But the only thing I really wanted to focus on were Samsung and Nintendo.
Yeah.
And she's like, ooh, like Samsung, that's a tough one. Like they're a global client. No intern has gotten hired. I was like, all right, bet, sign me up. So I was like, if I'm going to be here, I might as well like shoot for the stars and like get the full experience. So,
I would have gone, what's the easiest one?
No, I mean, that's the thing too. Like that's more short-term minded, but I was like, I can't curse on here. Can I?
You can curse.
Okay. I don't really give a fuck if I don't get the internship. I'd rather just do it right. So I ended up getting the Samsung internship and it worked out really well. Again, like the hardest I've grinded in my life, it was 2 years of 60, 70 hour weeks, commuting 2 hours from this.
What do you mean? It was 2 years though. What do you mean?
Well, yeah. Let me.
Yeah. See, yeah. No, you're good. I wanted to just clarify because I'm learning too.
Yeah, the internship itself was 3 months.
Right.
And that was also it was a grind. Like we definitely had our internship projects.
Yeah.
And get stuff to do, but I was just
how many people were in that internship?
I think about 40 across account management, strategy, creative, production.
That's a lot.
Yeah, they had a lot of different roles.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was a really great internship, like very structured. They like lunch and learns. You got to meet a lot of people, network. But again, I came into this, I was a senior. Like
you did it though. This is like a lot of people you just did your break-in story. Like, this is huge. Like to get that internship.
This is the turning point. This is
right. So you did that for 3 months. You did a great job on the internship project.
I was locked in. Like a lot of the people came into the internship like, oh my God, I'm so excited. This is so fun. Like happy hours, city. But like I had done that the year before.
Sure.
And I was like, I need a job. I need money. So like,
and you also, you might have debt or whatever. I don't know.
So it's like,
you're not going back to school. There's no fall. There's no.
And again, like I was fortunate because my parents knew about Leo Burnett.
That's nice. So I'm sure everybody was like, oh, I know that.
Yeah.
That's
like explaining to non-advertising friends that I'm doing another internship. I skipped over one in college that I did. It was just like at a small PR advertising. So like, this is the 5th one.
Sure.
So again, my parents were like, I had their blessing. I was living at home, saving my money. And then they're like, okay, like do your thing there. A lot of my friends were like, why are you taking another internship after college? But like, I was like, no, this is like the dream internship to get where I want to be. So I was locked in and like other interns would be like, oh, we're stopping work at 5. We're going to get a happy hour. We're going to do this. I'm like, no, I'm like, I got a meeting, or like my team's doing this, I'm doing whatever they want to do, like taking on more projects. So like I was locked in. So by the end of it, like we had a little internship project. We ended up winning that. So got some momentum from that. And then I got the job full time. So again, like I beat the odds of no intern being hired onto this crazy ass account. And got a full time job. So
Nice.
that was the turning point. Leo, again, like back to like the 2 years, it was a grind, I think, for a lot of reasons, just like the hustle culture, just like working to be the best version of myself, but also just learning. And like as an assistant account exec, like you probably know it, it's just like you're learning the fundamentals. So like you're gonna make mistakes. Like my boss was an account director, so I didn't really have anyone to like really work into, like show me the ropes or mentor me. Like I just had to learn it on myself with like his supervision, which I think again, it benefited me now. But yeah, it was crazy, man. But again, got to do a lot of great work. Like got a ton of film experience, which is pretty rare, I'd say, for someone, an assistant account exec, especially in Chicago. So it was about a year in, like, again, role is going great. I just moved to the city and I get hit up by a recruiter from Wieden. Her name's Barry. She's no longer there.
Me.
Very well me. Yeah, you know her.
He was on the show. She's at Apple now.
Yeah, exactly. She had hit me up in August of 2019.
You know, her husband
Crazy,
created, Puppy Monkey Baby.
I don't even know what that is. What is it?
Puppy Monkey Baby is like the craziest Super Bowl commercial, like in like, I think the tens. You gotta check it out. I think it's for Doritos. It's just like,
Okay.
just one of my favorite crazy ads.
Okay. These cool people. But yeah, this
So
is
she hit you up about a year into Leo.
2018. I had no desire to leave Chicago. I told myself it was a crazy DM, dude. I honestly thought it was spam. It was like, hey, because you get like a lot of DMs from recruiters that are like, hi, copy and paste. Like, we have this role, or like, just wanted to see if you're
real estate marketing agent.
Yeah, or even like some of the advertising ones are like so generic, where I'm like, I know you sent this to 100 people. And again, by all means, like not bashing, just more like be creative. So I got this crazy message from her where she's like, have you ever thought about getting a canoe and going all over the Pacific Northwest? I'm like, what the fuck? So I replied to her and I was like, yeah, like would love to chat. Like again, like I was 22 at the time, I want to say. So again, like this was all new to me. And I knew of Wieden, I'd say not in college, but when I was in the industry, because every time I'd read Adweek, at age, like they're doing all the great work. I was like, damn, that's a dream. So I'm like, oh, this is crazy that she's hitting me up. And then went through the interview process. I interviewed for a few accounts. They flew me out and then didn't get the role.
While you're at Leo, this wasn't like you were getting on a Zoom call, right? They flew you out. You had to take a day off.
Yeah.
You had to be a little sneaky.
I have a funny story. So I actually interviewed twice. The first time I didn't get it. And like, I think that's another turning point in my story was, I was interviewing. I was like going to a separate floor in Leo. I know it's like Brad saying this now, but like sometimes you got to do it.
Hey, no, this is legit. This is real life.
Yeah. It's like taking the call, like booking over my meetings to like do this one thing.
Yeah.
And then, interviews went really well. They're like, we want to fly you out. Like what's really cool about Wieden, I'd say, is they do a full day of interviewing, but it's not really intense. It's more just like cultural fit. And what I mean by that is you're having 30, 45-minute, hour-long conversations with people, but it's more just like a vibe check. It's not necessarily like, tell me about this time, or tell me about this experience. It was very much like, let's just go to lunch. Let's get to know you as a person. Like, let's hang out. And even just see if Portland is a good fit for you. Again, I've never been there. I didn't know anyone there.
I guess that makes sense because that means a lot to them.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't remember what I told my team when I flew out. It may have been around a holiday but anyway, I flew out, had this great day of interviewing. I remember I wore a blazer, which is kind of funny looking back. Some nice chinos and Converse, because Converse, like that was another account they had at the time. Affiliated
Smart.
With me. So again, I wanted to show like I was cool, I was put together. Like I wasn't just some kid in Chicago. I was like a pretty well put together person, but didn't get the job. And it wasn't a no. It was more like, you're very junior, we like you, but like we want someone for this specific role with more experience.
Were you mad that you spent a
No,
lot of time, you flew out there, you
no.
prepped, you got the nice chinos out, pressed, and you're like, "What's all this
Surprisingly,
for?"
surprisingly, no, man. Because like I was really happy at Leo. Like I knew I was so young into my
Oh,
career.
yeah.
Another piece of advice is like don't compare yourself to other people. I think like early on in my career, I was definitely someone that was like, I got to beat this by this level and like hit all these milestones. But now I'm just like, you got to enjoy the ride and think about like your own
Mhm.
journey. But no, I
Yeah,
because it wasn't,
you had Leo to fall
I
like,
had
it's not like the
that
end of
was
the world.
good. Like again, it
You're
wasn't a,
home in Chicago, you're in Naperville,
yeah,
you know.
I was in the city at this time. I was,
Well, yeah, but you
or
got
like,
your
yeah,
family home and, like,
yeah. So I was like,
you got a sweet gig. You're
yeah, dude,
living the
I
dream.
had no complaints. I was blessed. So like,
And that probably helped you a lot in your interview too, because 'cause you're relaxed, you're not trying out, you don't there's less pressure.
100,
That's why, it doesn't hurt when you have a job,
yeah,
to take those interviews, talk to some recruiters, do the schedule of your schedule,
yeah,
because then you're actually probably in a healthier mindset, and you
yeah.
probably could be yourself even more.
And you hit it on the hammer. It's just like, I think there's a balance of like when you're out of college, interviewing is more of a two-way street now.
Yeah.
It's less about like what you can provide to this company. It's also like, is this a cultural fit for you? Like, what can the company do to your growth?
When you have that first job under your belt, right? When you
100%.
have that you had that great and now you were chilling
Yeah.
with the Leo. I
Yeah.
get the pressure when it's your first job, and
Yeah.
sometimes you don't really get to pick your first job.
No.
You were
Yeah.
very fortunate, you worked very hard, you earned your first job at a great agency. Not everybody gets that, and they have to work really hard there to get noticed at another agency as well. So I
Yeah.
understand that, but once you start getting into your groove and you establish yourself, then it's very much so, why would I wanna go out to Portland
Hmm.
when I'm doing well here in Chicago? So
Yeah.
what
And that,
happened after that?
yeah. So I remember there was this box they gave me when I got to the hotel, and it was just something simple. It had the Wieden logo. It was just like welcome Emery and like a little welcome package, whatever. And because it wasn't a no, it was a moment to be like, you know what? I got some more work to do. This is where I think seeing it in person really helped
Mhm.
me contextualize. I was like, I need to be here. If I really want to take off in my career, like this is the place I need to be.
Wow,
But I got some more work to do and I'm going to go do that. So again,
crazy.
Wyden was really big on film. And again, I was 22. I didn't have too much film experience. So I basically went back to Samsung and I was like, what productions do you guys have? And like, how can I get on that?
And they're like, what do you why?"
They're like, all right,
They're like,
but
what
like,
changed over the weekend?"
right, right, right. I was like, oh, I just saw this beautiful film in the theater. No, it was like, um, that was the thing. I was like, okay, like,
Yeah,
is what they're looking for. Like, I think I'd done like one shoot at the time. And
yeah.
again, I had a director, account director there. So like, I didn't really do much. But this time around, like, it happened to work out. Like, everything in God's timing is like, it happened to work out that we just had two crazy productions going on that I was involved with both. One was a
Right.
holiday campaign we were launching. And another one was we were doing a film for the Samsung Developer Conference, like the opening keynote.
Nice.
And my boss was like, I'm going to go overseas and do this holiday shoot. You can go to LA and do this developer conference film. And it was nice too, because we also packaged it where we did like some social videos for another shoot. So like, it was really good experience because like, it was just me out there. And it was a nice moment where he gave me a lot of autonomy and like the film went great, or the production went great. Like the film came out nice. I actually got to go to San Francisco to see it come to life. So like,
Nice.
it gave me a lot of confidence. Again, probably one of the hardest years of my life. Like, I kid you not, 80-hour weeks, like Monday through Saturday, like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Like, it was nuts. But I gained so much confidence from that,
Yeah.
where I stayed in contact with Wyden again because it wasn't a no. Like, I was talking to New York for a little bit, but the
Right.
Portland office had hit me up. They're like, hey, we have this other role. It's on Trolli and it's on P&G for their Thinking Mom campaign. And what was really nice is you don't really get a lot of these moments in your life again, but I took the same flight. This time around, I actually had to lie to my boss and said, because I was like last minute, I was like, oh, I got to take off Friday. They're like, why? And I was like, oh, like my mom, like I got to see her or something like that. So I ended up flying to Portland on a Thursday, took the same exact flight as like a few months before, stayed at the
Mhm.
same exact hotel. woke up at the same time. Like, it was just like I was reliving my life.
Yeah.
But now again, like, I have this
But you felt like it was time.
it was time, man. I was so locked in. I had this newfound confidence. I was like, I'm not leaving here without a job.
Sure.
So went in, like, was cool, calm, and collected. It was funny because when I interviewed the first time, Barry was like, just know you're never gonna wear a blazer again here. Like, that's not really the culture at Wieden. So left the blazer at home, like, still had the chinos, still had the Converse, but I wore, I think, like, something else. And then again, just like, it was just some incredible day again, like, getting to be back there and
Same
be like,
format.
"Okay, this is mine and I'm claiming it." And that was on a Friday, came back the following Monday, got a note that I got the job,
Nice.
and then had 2 weeks to move to Portland. So so that was Wieden, and Weiden's really, I mean, like, I'll keep going with my journey, but, like, I think the whole summary of it is just, like, being very intentional, not forgetting about
I'll say
what's important to you. Um,
very intentional.
in the end, like, I think a big moment in that was I could have said, "Oh, like, F Wieden, like,
Yeah.
no to me, like,
Yeah.
I'll,"
Yeah.
but I was like, "No, like, I gotta put my ego aside and just, like, listen
Mhm.
to what they said and just do the work to
And you
get
did.
there."
And
And I
you
did.
demanded to go on some production, and it ended up
Yeah.
working for film.
Yeah, man. So
That's incredible.
that's the journey, man. I know I talked a lot, but I was gonna say that's like the turning point. Everything after
Mhm.
that was kind of just like job hopping, like getting more experience. I went from Wieden, Portland. I was there for like a year and a half. Then did a stint in New York office for a year, and then went to Mullen for a little under a year, and then now I'm at DoorDash.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of questions, but
Okay. Good. I wanted to let you talk a little bit. I've been rambling. So
absolutely. Um, and then the experience at Portland, did you see that it was a culture fit? Was it everything you ever dreamed of?
yeah.
And then you said you also went to New York. So high level, what was it like once you got there? Because we
Yeah,
know
I
how
really
you.
like Portland. Like, it doesn't get a good rap, but I'll say a few things. Like, I mean, I'm a black man in the space. It was definitely us moving to Portland. It's not a diverse city. I will say having at the time, Wieden had recruited a lot of black and people of color.
Mhm.
So I found my tribe there. Again, it was nice. I didn't know anyone going into
Mhm.
it. So it was nice just to have that community. And what is really cool about Portland is they have Nike, they have Adidas, they have some other agencies that have Widen's. Like, a lot of those people run in the same circle. So I'd say
Yeah.
coming out of college to Chicago, I was pretty confined to my college friends and
Sure.
my high school friends, not so much industry friends. And I think Portland is what got me that. And what's nice too is, like, being in New York, a lot of those people, I'd say majority of my friends that I met in Portland are now in New York.
Gotcha.
So it's been nice again to have those relationships continue on. But I liked Portland again. Like, it was an interesting time too, not to derail, but like, I was there during the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020.
Mhm.
So, like, being in that space and, like, really seeing what was happening firsthand, it was a really eye-opening experience for me. So I think just, like, being on my own, being independent there was a great, back to Barcelona, I'll say, like, it was a great moment for me to just grow as an individual, but also just get to be with the most creative people and the most hungry and just, like, some of the best in the industry. And just, like, at such a young age, I got there when I was 23, and just, like, get
Incredible.
exposed to that. That's really shaped my career. So I'm blessed for Wieden. I think both Portland and New York.
What do you do from there? Because Wieden,
Yeah.
Portland is often, there's very few agencies within that caliber, or at least the branding and the perception of it in the industry.
Mhm.
It's hard to beat that.
Yeah.
So where do you go? Like when it was time for you to leave to go to New York,
Yeah.
was that like what was the mindset? Were you depressed? Like
No.
I did it. Like I made it to the top of the creative agency
Yeah.
experience, or what
Yeah.
was that transition like
Well,
out of it?
it's interesting because I'd say I came to New York at a pretty, like, Wieden, New York. So, like, I went from
Right.
Wieden, Portland to Wieden, New York.
Portland.
Pretty
Yeah.
interesting time because I'd say at that time they had won a lot of business and, like, they
Wow.
were really on the up.
Yeah.
Like, I think a few months after I joined, they just dropped the Travis Scott McDonald's
Oh
campaign.
yeah.
I was working on Michelob ULTRA, so I had, like, no,
Yeah. But
like, it was just like, "Oh shit, like, this is like, there's
I
big."
forgot that was
No,
like the biggest thing ever.
They
And
were definitely popping off during that time. And like, there was a
so you
lot of,
felt good.
there
You're
was a
like, hell
lot
yeah.
of stuff going on. And again, I didn't know that going into that agency. Like, I know they had just got McDonald's. I think at the time they put out the Super Bowl meal campaign where they showed like Kim Kardashian's meals, Kanye's meals, but they were just
Mhm.
like tabletop shots.
Sure.
So I knew like they were starting to ramp up, and
Yeah.
they had done a lot of sprite work. So I
Mhm.
was like, oh, like this is a big deal. And I
And
got to
you're in
work.
New York. It's
And
like you have to try.
I was physically in Portland still because New York
Oh.
was like pandemic. So I ended
Oh.
up staying in Portland, and then I ended up moving back to Chicago but like I never experienced New York in person. That's one of my biggest regrets. But
Damn.
it was interesting even to just see how the two offices operate differently, but
Yeah.
you still feel a Wieden culture. But again, like I worked on
Of course.
Michelob. I got to do a lot of stuff with Serena Williams, Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis. Like we did Super Bowl campaign with them. I got to do some golf work, some NBA work. So like really tying in passions with the brand marketing stuff I was doing. And then I didn't even talk about it. At Portland, I worked on Trolli, P&G, Coca-Cola, and Fisher Price. So like got a breadth of different experiences. And then yeah, I got to do New York for a year, and I think it was just
But
time
you were still living in Portland.
living in Portland. So I was in Portland, I think from
Yep.
like Feb of 2019 until October of 2020. And I started at Wieden, New York, July of 2020, and then moved back home in October 2020. So I was in
Yeah.
Portland for like 3 additional months
Yeah.
after I started at the New York office.
Gotcha.
So
So
then, no,
what
go on.
happens what happens after that? After New
Yeah.
York, you jumped around a couple other agencies, you were
Yeah,
saying?
no, I just made one move to MullenLowe, and I think it was a few reasons. Like I haven't really been too open about this, but I think I just I needed to get my confidence back in a way, meaning like Wieden, New York was great for me, but I think I really had a hard time during the pandemic, just because I didn't really know anyone. Like from Portland, I knew my entire team. Then we went remote. With New York, I didn't know anyone. So it was really hard for me to make those relationships, especially in account role, like clients, like all that stuff. I think I was still trying to figure it out, but I needed to go somewhere to get that back. Cause again, like I talked about like my Leo days, like just like grinding, like living good life, whatever. But
Yeah.
I knew I had it in
Ah,
me. I was like, it was less about the agency. I think it was just like more for my own personal journey.
yeah.
So I jumped to Mullen, and it was great for a lot of reasons. I think like I got a lot of autonomy. I got to become a manager, and really just understand some things outside of like the day to day making creative work that I think really rounded me out as an account person.
Mhm.
But I also knew that I really wanted to get back to just making great work with really smart people, ambitious people. And that's where the DoorDash opportunity popped up. So
Here we are full circle.
we all
So bring it home. Bring it home here.
bring it home. But yeah, so this was I'll preface this, like, I'd always been a big fan of DoorDash. Like, I'm a marketing nerd. I always look on LinkedIn. Like, I don't really post a lot, but, like, I'll always, like, scroll through LinkedIn first thing I wake up. I'm always following, like, what brands are hot, what are they doing, who are the
Yeah.
CMOs, like, what's the vision they're setting, and, like, I'd
That's
followed
a
her.
lesson right there. Everybody should be doing that.
Yeah, I mean, like, what I tell people and, like, coming up in college or, like, anyone that I mentor is just, like, just read the trades, like, follow thought leaders, and, like, again, you don't have to be, like, posting accomplishments or just, like, what you're doing. It's more like, just absorb it, because
And don't
naturally, you're gonna be exposed to different moves people are making, like,
Yeah.
what campaigns are coming out, what brands are doing, like, different things, and, like,
Yeah, I
understand.
literally put on what I do is I put on post notifications for my favorite journalists. It's my
Yeah,
PR side
smart.
too, but it helps a lot on Twitter and also following on like Ad Age and Ad Week on Instagram. So when you're naturally scrolling,
Mhm.
you get a little bit, you get a hit here of you
Yeah,
learn a little bit, but then
yeah,
back to whatever you watch
yeah,
on your algorithm. So
exactly. And I'm a big advocate of, like, you are what you consume. So I thought,
mhm.
like, oh, like, rather than waking up and scrolling Instagram for 30 minutes, like, every day when I wake up, I'll scroll LinkedIn and just, like,
Heck yeah.
see what's going on. So anyway, so, like, I'd followed DoorDash. I was a big fan of all the work that was coming out. And there was a guy I met at a conference end of 2019, right before the pandemic. His name was JT Pierce, and he was the managing director at an agency in San Francisco at the time, and we had sat next to each other. It was a conference called Here Are All the Black People. I ended up
Mhm.
getting a stipend to go with Wieden Portland. to basically recruit people, but also just do my own networking. I positioned it as a growth opportunity. So like I wanted to be in New York. So I was like, I want to learn more about the city. I also want to just network for myself, but I'll also put Wieden on the map when I'm there. So they were able to give me a little budget for that.
Nice.
And then I ended up sitting next to this guy named JC Pierce. I thought he was like so incredible. He was young, like head of an agency. Like he was like 30 something. I was just like, yeah, this dude like legit. So 2 years had flown by. He had left his agency in San Francisco to become the head of the creative studio at DoorDash, like basically like a managing director of our creative studio. And I remember seeing the post on LinkedIn again, like this is why it's important to just kind of be in touch with the updates, and like congratulated him. And then I think it was like a month or two later, he posted this role about a brand supervisor. And like I read the job description. I was like, oh, this is pretty in line with like what I do and like what I'm trying to do more of. And yeah, this was like October of 2021. So I wasn't too long into Mullen. I was probably like 3 months in, maybe 4 months in. But again, I had that ambition. I was like, I want to go and like be at the best place, work with like most
And you
talented, smartest people.
recognize this guy you're saying from
I
this
was like, if
conference
he's
you knew.
there, yeah,
Yeah, because a
he's
lot
there,
of the
he's
time it's
wanting to
who you
go.
work with.
Like, I gotta work from like this is a dream I gotta learn from it. And again, like I'd followed our CMO Kofi for a while. He's
Mhm.
also West African. Like again, like just like being in the industry, knowing and seeing him and looking up to him, I was just like, no, like this is a company I want to be at for a lot of reasons. And so I hit JT up. I was like, hey, just see you posted this role. Is it based in San Francisco or New York? I had no desire to move to San Francisco.
Be
No offense.
honest. There you
But
go.
I was like, but he's like, no, it's remote indefinitely, but we have offices all over, inclusive of New York. Like it's our second biggest market. It's actually, I think, like now become one of our biggest. We just opened a new office like 3 weeks ago. But so yeah, he was like, I'll put your name in the pipeline. Like, let's get some conversations going. So first was an interview with the recruiter, Tammy, and she was great. Again, like just chem check to make it seem like, okay, like, is this guy qualified? Like, what's he about? What's his story? And then the second chat was with JT, and this time it was actually like a more formal interview. And it was I don't say intense, but it was definitely like, oh, this is a different ballgame because every time I had interviewed agency side, it was more just like, oh, like what have you worked on? What have you done? But
Yeah.
like this is very much like what impact have you drove? Like what processes have you established? Like it was more like the way that DoorDash interviews, it's really smart. And you walk away again, like back to the whole like two-way interview is like, you're going to know if you're qualified for this role, but also
Sure.
going to want to interview
Yep.
here and work here, but also they know, okay, can this person actually do the job?
Gotcha.
So yeah, the second interview was with him, like challenged me on a lot of stuff, but like I was prepared on point. And then the third part of the interview was panel interviews, and you do 4 interviews with 4 people, and then they all conglomerate together, talk about all the different candidates, and then they'll end up like talking about, okay, like who do we want to move to the next round?
Mhm.
Following that, are we good on time, by the way?
We do need to start wrapping it up.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
I'll wrap it up.
But you're good.
So once we finish the panel, I then have to do an assignment, and it was actually pretty interesting because he was like, here's a business problem that we're working on currently.
Yep.
And you have to figure out how you would go about solving it. Not in the way of like, here's a creative output. It's more like, how would you even attack this problem? What are the steps you would do to like lay the groundwork?
Yes. Understand your thinking,
Yes.
how you approach.
Yeah.
That's really important. I guess we
Right.
don't really do that. We kind of respect boundaries in
Yeah.
your creative process in advertising. We're not looking for like not too much, I don't think.
Yeah. So it's cool because again, like I had to take a step back and be like, all right, because I'm interviewing for a marketing job. I can't think of this as like an advertisement, even though
Did that scare you, or did you
no,
like
I
the
think
challenge?
I was ready for that jump. And like, again, like I'd done a lot of research on the company. Like, again, I had a lot of people I'd reached out to, like just brand side to understand what their world is. And like, I was ready, man. And again, with thorough research, but also just like trusting my gut, I think it got me to a good place and then made it past that round. And then, The final interview was with our current executive creative director. Her name's Mariota. She's a delight, like South African woman, boss. Like
Mm-hmm.
she runs the show now, but she's incredible. So like that was just a chem check just to be like, how are you? Like, how was the interview? How are you feeling? And then got the job in December and then been here since. That was December of 2021 and started
Wow.
officially Jan of 2022.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And looking back, no regrets leaving the agency world?
No, man, I'm happy. Again, like in my role, like I can talk a little bit about the creative studio, but we're an internal creative team. We work with our internal marketers here, but we also work with agencies. Like some include the Martin agency, Gut, handful of other agencies. I think what's pretty cool too is like being agency side, and a lot of my team is that we have connections to the folks agency side, but also just an understanding of who's doing good work. So we're always looking for best in class partners. And it's been really nice, man. Like I've learned a lot, one as a marketer, but two, just as someone that works at a company as so large. I think we're at like 10,000 people. So
Wow.
knowing how to stand out, knowing how to drive impact, knowing how to translate what you do into other departments. I think sometimes like even in an account role or creative agency role is like, you only know what you know. Being at a brand now with so many other departments, I had to realize like how small marketing is. And even within that, like how small the creative work is. But how do you make sure that your work has visibility and is respected across all the different departments? So it's like, I think that's a skill that I've learned since I've been here. It's still being refined, but that's something that again, I wouldn't have been able to get.
Because we don't even think about that on
Right.
the agency side.
Yeah, man. So it's been good. Again, like we do a lot of great work. Again, work with a lot of smart people, like probably the smartest people I've ever worked with. And it's been a blessing just to be able to soak everything in. And it's really, again, like tying it really full circle is even with such a large company is I know I'm a human here. I know that my voice is valued. I have a point of view. Kind of like how I was at Butler. Like I wasn't just a statistic. I was actually Emery. I was able to bring something to the table.
I love it. And that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, man.
I think there's been a lot of lessons unpacked here. I think the one thing that I take away from you is how intentional you've been, you know, from not work. Like I would have probably taken the easy route at the Leo internship, right?
Yeah.
Like I would have, relaxed, coasted. Like I already achieved things. You didn't stop when you reached Wieden+Kennedy Portland. You explored to go to New York, and like even like working in New York is a tough beast of its own. You just keep pushing yourself, and that it just seems like yourself, and that success just basically radiates towards you. It seems like, and from our conversation and people listening, it's very apparent. So, how can people reach out to you if they have further questions? Because I know they will, and I'm sure they'll want to connect with you and do all that. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I think the best way is LinkedIn. It's just Emery Barnes. Shoot me a message. I always love to talk with people and learn and give back. I know we were chatting before we hopped on. Like, if there's anything I can do for you, Gino, like let me know. But also for anyone listening that identifies with my story or resonates with something, or again, has interest in something that I've done or something that I talked about, like shoot me a message. Again, I love building community within this industry, and that's at all levels. I think it's not even just people above me or people at my level. It's also people that are just trying to get started. So my door is open.
You should start a podcast.
Man, I know. I feel bad because I did most of the talking. It didn't feel.
No, you're good. I'm saying we'll talk. We'll talk after this.
Let's do it. Yeah, man. Maybe
get some ideas going.
Maybe in part 2 in the future. But no, this was fun, man. It's a pleasure.
Well, thank you for coming on. I know we can talk further, but we'll leave it for the people to talk offline. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Gino. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this entire episode of the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. If you like what you heard, it would mean a lot to us and help us grow and get better guests and better break-ins if you can go to Apple Podcasts and leave us 5 stars and a small review if you have the time. Be sure to connect with our guests if you like what they said by going to our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod. That's all one word, Breaking and Entering Pod on Instagram. We have links to their portfolios and their LinkedIn, and they want to connect, so do that. And thank yous. Thank you to Mikey Malarkey, our audio engineer, and Buchan Zhang, our creative director. Can't do it without you two, and a team from the University of Illinois. It's a student team from the agency called AdBuzz. They're a PR agency, and it's been a pleasure working with them. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next week with another amazing guest. Thank you so